Hello and welcome back. On today's episode of Murder Chronicles, I will take you through the case of Billy Chemirmir. Billy Chemirmir was a Texas-based Kenyan man who relocated to the US in the early 90s. While in the US, he worked for so many years as a maintenance agent as well as a caregiver. But towards the beginning of the year 2016, Billy started working independently, still as a maintenance agent and a caregiver. But trust me or not, this time round his intentions are dark and heinous. His victims mostly were old women living in their homes for the elderly. He would go to their homes, guised as a maintenance agent, and the moment he gained access to their homes, Billy would end up killing them by smothering them with a pillow. Then he would steal from them. By the time Billy was apprehended by the law, he had already killed 22 innocent women. Would you like to know the full details to this case? I believe that you do, and so just stick around. Billy Chemirmir was born on December 8, 1972. He was born in Kabonyoni village, a Kenyan suburb of Eldama Ravine, Baringo County, Kenya. Baringo County is in the Great Rift Valley and is bordered by Turkana, Samburu, Laikipia, Nakuru, Kericho, Nandi, Uasin Gishu, Elgeyo Marakwet, and West Pokot counties. It is one of the largest counties, covering 11,075 square kilometers. Baringo County has a population of about 860,000 people, with the majority living in the highlands and urban centers. Billy was described to be a quiet kid, one with a reserved nature, peaceful, and the events that led to his ultimate hostile nature never manifested during these young days. His father was a long-serving village chief. He had 27 siblings, all from his father's 3 wives. His mother was the second wife. Billy only studied up to high school level. He did not join any higher education. For a long period of time, he remained at home after high school, where he looked after his elderly father. After some years, Billy decided to actualize his life dreams of going to the USA. He believed that from there, he would definitely better his life. He managed to win a green card lottery, and with his sister already established in the USA, she hosted him. He moved to the United States in the early 90s. He started a life in Texas. He began working as a maintenance agent as well as a caregiver. His affluence in English enabled him to thrive through different opportunities, since he could smoothly communicate with the American community. At around 2004, Billy married a woman he had met, a step that enabled him to acquire permanent residency in the USA. Unfortunately, for reasons unknown, the marriage ended after 2 years, that is, in the year 2006. Fortunately, Billy was already independent and established, enabling him to continue living alone even after the broken marriage. For a period of time, Billy continued working as a maintenance agent until he finally made a move of working independently, specifically as a caregiver, looking after the elderly people in the elderly homes and facilities. He supported them, as well as providing companionship to those who felt vulnerable. Having taken care of his aged father, even before coming to the USA, it gave him the advantage to connect to his job, which was more from experience rather than just a money-making opportunity. He manifested himself as hardworking and quite dedicated. But as days continued to unfold, he would show the 2 sides of Billy. It came to a time when his dark side dominated the picture. He began to have some bad records with the law. Billy had convictions for driving under the influence in Addison and Dallas in 2010 and 2011. He received fines and short custodial sentences. In July 2012, he was arrested for assault on a female companion after returning home drunk after he had visited a strip club. He had badly punched her, and on top of that, he threatened her with a machete. He pleaded no contest to the charges later that year, and in June 2016, he was charged with trespassing at the Edgemere Retirement Community, an exquisite community for elderly people who lived in self-contained houses. Upon being confronted about the trespass, he gave the security a fake identity, but finally, they gave him a warning and let him go. This left him with a strained reputation, although it never had much effect towards his caregiving job. No one came to realize that Billy was gradually laying down his heinous plans that would be realized when it was too late. He was elevating his wickedness from minor assaults and trespass towards becoming a cold-blooded killer. He did it with thirst and hunger for accumulating more money. Billy knew his target and the corner from which to play around: old women. He mostly approached the ones who lived independently, or simply the ones who lived in assisted living homes. His intention would slowly start to manifest. April 2016, Edgemere Living Facility. Catherine Sinclair, an 87-year-old woman, is found dead in her room. She lived alone, with no known husband or kids. After investigating her cause of death, it would be declared to be natural. No suspicions had been noted, and the death continued. The following month, another woman in the same facility is discovered dead, 91-year-old Phyllis Payne. She was dressed in a robe, still laying on her bed. For the cause of death, it was determined to be natural and a peaceful death. But in the process, her daughter would point out that some of her mother's jewelry were missing. But it was something she and the security officers did not dwell on. A third death occurred, still an old woman, only 2 weeks after Phyllis Payne died. Phoebe Perry, at 94, would be found dead, and still, these did not raise any alarms at all. Around mid-June, Billy would be caught by security as he attempted to trespass the Edgemere Living Facility. He was arrested and criminally charged with trespass. He did not show his ID and ended up being locked at Dallas County Jail for a period of 2 months and 10 days. While in prison, he conducted himself with good conduct, an impression that led to early release. He remained locked for only 12 days and was released. Prestonwood, North Dallas. Soon after his release, quite alarming deaths started to emerge at the traditional Prestonwood home for the elderly. Prestonwood is only 15 minutes drive away from the Edgemere. Between July and October 2016, a number of women reportedly died at the traditional Prestonwood facility. Joyce Abramowitz, 82 years, Pardee Joanita, 82 years, Leah Cocken, 83 years, Margaret White, 86 years, Norma French, 85 years, Glenna Day, 87 years, and Doris Gleason, 92 years. On top of the victims list, there was just a single male by the name Solomon Spring. Sadly, all these deaths were being determined as natural course. It remained puzzling to date why the authorities overlooked the reports made by some of the victims' family members, confirming that some of the deceased valuable items were missing. For instance, Doris Gleason was found with her necklace missing, a family pendant that she had never took off her whole life. For Norma French, her wedding ring had been slipped off the finger. It was absurd since she never took off her ring since she married her late husband more than 60 years ago. Others would have their safes missing or simply with no money inside. At the beginning, the police would suspect the paramedics as well as the employees to the facility as the culprits. On November 13th, a suspicious person is spotted near the Prestonwood facility. The police are informed ASAP. The suspect dressed meticulously. He wore an expensive suit, carried a leather post bag, claiming to be a plumber who wanted to inspect the facility water piping. He matched Billy Chemirmir's physical descriptions. The police ordered for his denial for entry, and so he did not get into the facility. For a period of time, the security system got tighter, and the deaths at the facility would cease. Parkville Senior Living Center, Frisco, Texas. Deaths for elderly began to happen here. September 2nd, year 2017, Helen Ann Lee was found dead at the Parkville Senior Living Center. September 17th, 2017, 90-year-old Marilyn Bixler is also discovered dead at the same facility. On October 2019, the curtain begins to unveil. A 93-year-old miraculously survived the attack. During her statement to the police, she said that her attacker was well-dressed, an African-American man who had appeared at her door. He claimed to have been assigned for maintenance, but she responded to him by saying that she needed no maintenance. Sadly, he pushed himself inside, knocking the old woman from her walker to the floor. The attacker dragged her to the bedroom. He forcibly laid her on the bed and began to smother her with a pillow. In an attempt to save her life, she did not fight back and pretended to be dead. He quickly took her jewelry and left immediately. She quickly pressed the emergency button, alerting the caregiver and the police at the Frisco police station. News of this attack spread quickly, and as they remained rife, the death incidences immediately stopped. However, this did not mark the end of the deaths. The cycle continued. At the Preston Place Retirement Community, Plano, Texas, the dark angel of death would start to haunt them. Between October 2017 and March 2018, 7 women lost their lives in the same facility. They included Minnie Campbell, 84, Diane Delahanty, 79, Mamie Delamere, 93, Doreen Wasserman, 90, Martha Williams, 80, Miriam Smith, 81, and Annie Coughlin, 82 years. During the times when the victims were being discovered, most family members complained of having the victims' valuable items stolen. Yet the police never managed to connect the dots in determining that the cases were homicide and not natural death, as they were all being pronounced. The cycle remained and the darkness would wear off. Only after 2 years, the culprit had been murdering the innocent old citizens for a period of 2 years, from 2016 to 2018. March 19, 2018, Preston Place Retirement Community. In one of the apartments, filled with fresh and peaceful air, 91-year-old Mary Anise Betel became Billy's target. He showed up at her doorstep, his hands in green gloves. It's a tactic he applied so many times to gain access to these apartments. He posed as a maintenance agent. Mary, unaware of the predicament that she was about to face, she tried to deny him entry, but he pushed himself in, knocking her down to the ground. He then turned to her with a malicious eyes and ordered her to go to bed immediately. Shocked and confused, Mary obeyed his command. She lay in her bed and Billy came right after her. He began to smooth her with a pillow. Mary was unconscious. He took with him all of her jewelry. including the wedding ring as well as money. Mary Anise was later discovered by a friend who called 911. The survivor of Mary Anise played as a pillar towards discovering the culprit responsible for the deaths of so many innocent elderly individuals. As she described her killer, it painted a clear picture of Billy Chemirmir. The Plano police immediately placed him as the first suspect. After all, he had already had a criminal record with the authorities. The following day of 20th March 2018, the authorities placed Billy's home under discreet surveillance. They were looking to charge him with an outstanding warrant. As the authorities remained busy watching his residence, Billy was out in the hunt for the next victim. Lucy Harris, 81 years old, was murdered from her Dallas home sometime between 4:30 and 6 p.m. During the police surveillance at the home, they identified him drive back a few minutes past 6 p.m. He would toss a jewelry box in the apartment complex dumpster. He then walked back to his car when the police approached him. After inspecting his car, they would discover a Ziploc bag full of jewelry. They went for the box he had just tossed in the dumpster, only to discover it labeled with Lucy Harris' name. Right after the incident, they drove to Harris' house only to discover her dead in the bedroom. Depending on the lipstick marks on the pillow beside her body, and that on her lips, it was an indicator that Billy had smoothed out the victim too. The same thing he did to the rest. Among the things discovered from Billy's car, Lou's son would identify his mother's jewelry and the keys to her front door. Billy Chemirmir was immediately arrested, and from that point, the authorities would connect the dots. Other victims had died after having incidences with Billy, who always posed as a maintenance agent. Out of this, the police started to dig deeper into other similar cases that had been ruled as natural death. Yet, there were some sparks of suspicion. Billy was first presented before Mary Anise, who identified him as her attacker, and this revealed a concerning pattern and evidence that clearly linked Billy to the multiple killings. More evidence continued to surface, thus incriminating him even deeper. He was discovered from various locations, caught by the surveillance cameras entering or exiting the facilities shortly before the victims were discovered dead. This placed him in a position where he was being faced with 22 possible murder cases. The revelations were chilling, branding him as the most heinous serial killer in Texas. They would also come to a realization that he began his killing back in 2016. He used quite well calculated measures, targeting all people who were vulnerable and delicate, posing either as a maintenance agent or a caregiver, showing his positive side before finally revealing his true intentions. He would engage them in charming conversations. After all, many old people need a person to keep them company. He would later skillfully learn of exit doors that were never used, then would always sneak after the attacks. After getting trust from his victims, that is when he would attack them when they least expected it. Most of these victims became too vulnerable since they relied only on caregivers or family members who were not available for most of the time, leaving them all alone for prolonged periods of time. He exploited their loneliness and mostly used a pillow as the killer weapon. After killing them, he would ransack the house, stealing their valuables such as jewelry and money. He never cared of how something could have been sentimental to the victim, like why steal a wedding ring for a 90-year-old woman that was the greatest memory maybe she held of her husband. Billy would later sell the items and keep the stolen money. At the beginning, Billy Chemirmir was being faced with multiple charges, including the killing of Lucy Harris, which made him the main suspect for the death of the other victims. In November 2021, he began to face trial for Luthi Harris. There was surviving evidence, people who were willing to give testimonies and witnesses, like Mary Anise Patel. Yet, one member of the jury was not convinced of Billy's charges. This led to a mistrial. However, the other jury members remained firm to their ground and prepared for a second trial. They wanted the charges on Billy concerning the other victims to withstand. Sadly, Mary Anise passed right before the second trial. But on the bright side, her testimonies had been recorded, and so the video was presented before the judge. More evidence was presented by the jury, and for a breath of relief, other members came to a unanimous decision. April 22nd, 2020, Billy Chemirmir faced his sentencing. He faced capital murder conviction for the killing of Luthi Harris. He was sentenced to lifetime jail without possibility of parole. Since he was determined as guilty for the death of other victims, he was spared of death penalty, with the Dallas attorney quoting that, "Billy, after all, was meant to die in prison." The attorney's predictions came true after all. September 19th, 2023, a year plus a few months after Billy's trial, Billy Chemirmir died in prison after being ambushed by a cellmate by the name Ward Ellis Busby at the Caulfield Unit Prison, Tennessee Colony, Texas. The mate was serving his jail time for murder too. Billy had made a trashy comment regarding Ward Ellis Busby's children. He got infuriated by the comment and attacked Billy with a pen at the prison's hallway. After all, he faced the outcome of the path he chose, a path to violence. Billy Chemirmir's case is a chilling reminder of the vulnerability of elderly individuals, particularly those living in assisted care facilities. His calculated and brutal crimes, spanning over several years, had left a lasting impact on the victims' families and communities. As his trial continued, it underscored the importance of vigilance and the improved safety measures in protecting the elderly from exploitation and harm. Chemirmir's action had sparked wider conversations about the need for greater oversight in senior care and the ways in which society can better safeguard its most vulnerable members. His conviction was upheld. It served as a somber step towards justice for those who lost their lives at his hands. And that is the dark case of Billy Chemirmir. And in the meantime, please do consider subscribing. And I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.